have talked with Chris Erb. Chris Erb is the president of the Connecticut Energy Marketers Association. And believe it or not, it represents 600 locally owned home heating oil and propane companies. Now, Chris, it doesn't surprise me at all, has filed a lawsuit against the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection for allegedly skipping a major impact review when it fast-tracked the Malloy administration's plan to expand the availability of natural gas in Connecticut. Now, the lawsuit, filed Friday in Superior Court in Hartford, says the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection was indifferent to the environmental consequences of putting in 900 miles of natural gas mains by failing to perform an evaluation of how that undertaking would impact the environment. Now, this is like building a natural gas pipeline, they tell me, from Hartford, Connecticut to Chattanooga, Tennessee, without one environmental study. And Chris, as I said, is the president of the Connecticut Energy Marketers Association, and I have him with me this morning. Chris, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Brad. Thanks for having me on.
No, I'm glad that you are on the other side of saying that, you just don't want modernization, and this is what it's all about. But, again, I have never had it pointed out to me this way.
Well, Brad, a lot of people have accused us of trying to prevent another company from expanding, and nothing could be further from the truth. What we have here is, as you've already mentioned, I represent 600 mom-and-pop, locally owned companies that have been in business sometimes in their third and fourth generation now. And the big issue to us is that we, as small family-owned businesses here in Connecticut, have to comply with every environmental law that is on the books. Yet, a company like Northeast Utilities, which is a $17.5 billion publicly traded monopoly with a government-guaranteed rate of return, is suddenly allowed to skip whether a significant environmental impact is going to be made with their 900 miles of new lines. And I'll tell you, my 10-year-old who goes to middle school in Naugatuck could figure out that if you're going to put 900 miles of new lines in, it's likely you're going to disturb an aquifer, a wetlands, or some other protected habitat, not to mention the 200,000 metric tons of methane gas that's already leaking into the environment from these lines. It's preposterous, and I think one of the fundamental flaws is when they combined the Department of Energy with the Department of Environmental Protection, the Department of Energy has now become a proponent of these utilities, and the environmental side is completely lost, and it's fundamentally unfair to us.
Well, let me ask you this. If they didn't do this, would they be erring? I mean, really, erring? Would they, if they didn't do it?
Well, yes, absolutely. The law is absolutely clear. If there's they need to at least make a determination whether there's going to be some sort of environmental harm that's going to be done. And if it does, we're not saying stop the project. What we're saying is comply with the law. And the law says that if you're going to disturb the environment, then you need to make other plans on how not to do that. So we're not getting in the way. What we're saying is that when Joe's Oil on Main Street is required to comply with these laws, the utility should have to be also. In the Department of DEEP should be the last person to be saying, you know what, they're wrong. We shouldn't be forced. That's why we're in court. The court is going to compel the state to comply with its own laws.
Now, do you believe that you're going to win this? You do?
We do. Like I said, if a 10-year-old could figure it out, I think that the courts are going to be very agreeable with what we're going to suggest. Now, I have every expectation that the governor, DEEP, and the utilities will fight us tooth and nail. They have us outgunned. They're politically stronger. They have a lot more money. But we're going to do the right thing to protect local businesses.
Now, again, Chris, I'm sure there are many listening to us that had no idea this was happening. But I'll tell you, I have already heard from some small dealers, as you mentioned, probably some of yours.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I can tell you that two other states, Massachusetts and Vermont, have already put the brakes on these projects because of the cost that being proposed to pass along to the public, Connecticut's not going to be very far behind. Your listeners will eventually hear about this. If you convert to gas, it could be up to a 30% premium increase put on your rates to do that. So I'll tell you right now, it's either you're either going to find out when they tear up your front yard or the street in front of your house. You're going to find out when they put a premium on your utility bill. You will eventually find out. We're just intervening at this point, but because before they do any significant damage, the courts need to say right now, you have to come up with a plan to prevent that from happening.
Okay, you did this on Friday, and I knew you were going to do it, Chris, and again, how long are you and your members going to have to wait before a decision is made? Our assumption is that the state will try to have this case dismissed pretty quickly. So if we can get past that, we should know that in the next couple months. If they're not successful in doing that, then this could take a number of months. This will not be a quick process. Who does it go to?
It's going to go to the State Superior Court in Hartford.
And they will decide. The judges will decide.
Absolutely. And like you said, at this point, if DEEP can't see past the governor's political agenda and figure out that the environment needs to be protected, businesses need to be treated fairly, then we need the courts to do that.
Why would they do this, though, if it wasn't going to aid the people of the state of Connecticut? Playing the devil's advocate here.
Yeah, this is Alice in Wonderland. You know, we had a government that was designed for years to protect the public against these types of activities, and instead, this current administration is completely the opposite. They become the lead blocker, the cheerleader for the utilities, and they're promoting something that is, in my mind, it's reckless, and that's why the courts need to be involved.
Now, your people that belong to this, the small dealers, as you say, and I know, what is their recourse?
Well, this is the recourse. I mean, you know, if we are to lose in court,
that's what I mean. If you're going to lose, what's the use?
Sure. Well, I don't think we're going to lose. Number one, I'm going to remain optimistic. But if we do, we may have the ability to go to federal court and appeal to the federal court. So if in state court this is not does not turn out the way that we're hoping, there is the ability to go take it to the next step.
Chris, and I know that you will keep me informed, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely, Brad. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure no one else is telling this story. You're not going to hear it from the governor. You're not going to hear it from DEEP. So we're going to be talking to the public directly through your program. Thank you,
Chris, very much. Chris Erb, who is president of the Connecticut Energy Marketers Association, representing 600 locally owned home heating oil and propane companies. And as you said, we'll talk again. Thanks again. It is 7:30. We'll be back right after the news.